Kayleigh McEnany is the co-host of Outnumbered and former White House press secretary, and she joins me now. Thank you for joining me today.
Good to join you, Ben.
So tell me a little bit about what you think of the left's efforts when it comes to diminishing the role of moms and dads within society and making child rearing something that modern professionals view as totally abhorrent and something that would ruin their lives.
Ben, what you just said was so important, so often not spoken, but a message that everyone needs to hear. It is a subtle attack by the left. You nailed it. You know, it goes back to a time when we all used to agree. President John F. Kennedy said children are our messages to a time that we will not see. You know, I know that you are a new father. I'm a new mom. I was researching for this segment before I went up to wake my daughter, baby Blake, from a nap. And I was reading quotes from AOC. You mentioned her in your monologue, and she said, is it okay to have children in this day and age? She said that on an Instagram Live. Vox went on to pontificate whether it's ethical to have children amid a warming world. Climate change now used as a reason to not have children. Look, it's every woman and man's decision, whether they want to make that decision to have a child. But if you have that desire in your heart, a few things come to mind besides global warming that are epidemics, a pandemic, a crime wave, but the left trying to now insert ethics, morality into the decision to have a child, a basic family unit. And you mentioned Black Lives Matter. Of course, they used to have on their website the family unit was something that they were challenging. You were spot on. It's a subtle message being expressed that's not often talked about.
You know, Kayleigh, the thing that is so jarring to me is that I hear from so many of my friends who are successful, who have the resources, who have the ability to have children, that they can't possibly think about bringing a child into this world. And then I think about all the things we've gone through in our history, you know, the children who came out of the Great Depression, the people who've changed the world over the years, who've come at incredibly difficult times in the world. What would your message be to those who are concerned in this moment, you know, men and women who say, I look around at all the horrible things that are happening, how can I bring a child into this?
My message would be exactly what you said, which is that freedom is at risk. That Ronald Reagan said, if that's freedom is one generation away from extinction. And that is why we bring children into this world, to carry on the message of the United States of America, of your family unit, of your faith, whatever that may be. Carry on the values that we hold dear. And also, there's the other component to this, Ben, and I saw it in the White House as press secretary, where children now are being put last. I had Dr. Scott Atlas come into my office, topple on my desk a stack of papers and say, here is the data that our children should be in schools. All of the science is there that shows that they're not transmitting COVID as readily. Why are we as a country putting our children last? What nation sacrifices their children as Western European countries are opening their schools and we are not, as child abuse cases are reporting is going down, cases in hospitals are going up. It's reported in schools and we're keeping our school doors shut. So there's the idea of having kids, and then there's the idea of protecting those kids on the other side.
We will look back, I believe, at this pandemic and those decisions where the rest of the world was able to find a way to get kids back into school, and we were not, as being an incredible failure of governance. Thank you, Kayleigh, for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Ben.
Also here with me tonight is the author of Hillbilly Elegy and a Republican running for Senate in the state of Ohio, J.D. Vance. I know that you have some opinions about this. What are your thoughts on the general tenor of the left when it comes to their opposition to Americans having more children?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Ben. If folks want to help out, please go to jdvance.com. And my basic view on this is that the left feels comfortable experimenting on children with the lockdowns, the mask mandates, and just their general approach to public policy because they're increasingly the party and the movement that doesn't have kids. And I look at the way that they think about, for example, whether we should mask children or whether we should actually secure the southern border. If you're a childless adult living in New York City, you probably care more about your house cleaner than you do about the children of America. But if you're a parent and you see the effect that this nonstop lockdown and masking has on kids, then you're going to care more about the kids. So I think basically what we've done is that we've allowed the Democrats to become dominated by a bunch of sociopaths who don't care about America's children. And we just need to call it out. Kudos to you for calling it out. All of us need to say the obvious, that this is a movement that is too invested in nothing because they're not invested in the future in this country's children.
You know, it really does feel like this is a movement that has been taken over by these young childless professionals who convince themselves that if they just, you know, have a couple of cats or something like that, that can be just as fulfilling, you know, a situation where, of course, those cats aren't going to be taking care of you when you get older, and the government will have to step into the place. That, you know, as someone who speaks so often to libertarian audiences, I've always stressed the number one thing you should care about, you should sound like Rick Santorum on the importance of the American family, because strong families mean that government doesn't have to step in to take all these roles. There is no way to make that argument. In terms of your own campaign and the efforts that you're going to lodge and making your argument to the people of Ohio, how are you going to talk about this issue and connect with them on putting families back, working families in America, back at the priorities of a new Republican Party?
Look, I think my argument to the folks of Ohio is very simple, which is that we don't have a country, we don't have a state unless we have children, unless we have healthy families. And we need to start recognizing that and enforcing that through public policy. You know, I advanced an idea that comes from a country in Eastern Europe, Viktor Orban's Hungary, where they give married couples a generous loan at the beginning of their marriage, and then they actually forgive the loan if that couple stays married and has children. And the basic idea is that we would actually reward marriage, whereas our tax code right now actually penalizes marriage and people who are getting married. But the basic idea, whatever the policy details, is pretty simple. We want people to have healthy, vibrant families in this country, and if we don't, we're not going to have a real country anymore.
You know, historically, looking back, you know, at the strength of America's families in times of trouble, you know, it's allowed the country to emerge from difficult times in the past because we had that foundational element. My fear of this current moment coming out of this pandemic is that that's going to prove too weak for the moment and allow government to step in and take over more and more authority over our lives. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, JD.
Thanks, Ben.